What's up, guys? It's your host Spartanic Arts DXD back with another high school DXD related video, and today we have What If Issei Was Abandoned Part 20. Once again, if all possible, if you're in the premiere right now, hit that like button. Let's try to hit 1,000 likes once again. If you guys want to know exactly when I upload, so my upload schedule, click the little blue button right next to the subscribe button. I cannot thank you all enough for joining Limit Breaker and Balance Breaker all throughout the premieres. It's been crazy. We're almost at 60 channel members, which is unbelievable to even fathom. It's crazy. Thank you so much. Also, road to 40 and 50k. We want that halfway through 100k mark, because it'd be so crazy, just be so crazy to look at. So thank you so much for the support, man. And without further ado, I'm gonna shout out my second channels. Palpowski and Fallen DXD are my two other channels. On Fallen DXD, tell me what you want to do. Do you want me to review animes and play games? And then on Palpowski, I'm just going to make shorts and shorter videos, things like that, which is on my Dragon Ball related channel. And so thank you. Go subscribe to all those other channels. And without further ado, let's go and thank our balance breakers. Rob the King, Lachlan Yates, Atomic Warlord 58, Seth Foyle, St. Louis, The Beast YT3, Colex, Joe Baldwin, Russell Getchell Jr., Madara Uchiha, Refeek135, Keep Saying 21, Blue Lightning, Sinrar Q, Xdatapati Gaming, VRWolf #2347, Sanitates, Stephen Cruz, Zeke 2000, The J-Boys, The PS Gamer, XOR X108, Mr. Wolf, Jordan Patchow, Mazaku, Dr. Maji _ is the bomb, Asamotus, Grimfire Shot Gamer, That Round Guy, Zero Fusion, Soresponder, Nick May 98, God Said Wine, Chaotic Raven. Thank you so much for becoming a balance breaker. I cannot thank you guys enough. It's absolutely amazing. As well as shout out to all my limit breakers. I know y'all in the pack, so thank you so much for the support. And without further ado, let's go ahead and roll into part 20. We're picking up where we left off, right almost at the end of chapter 9, where it says boom, or couldn't escape the end gap. So let's go ahead and get into it. Boom! The goddess was sent flying once again, right towards the wall behind her. Issei, seeing his blow landed, felt the fatigue of his former combat against her and the heavy wound she gifted him. He started to breathe heavily and kneel on the ground. The attack took a toll on his reserves and stamina. Good thinking, partner. Use your swing as a feint just to hit her, with a strong attack, but I doubt that would be enough. Drake congratulated his partner, but also warned he knew that attack was far from enough. I think I will need to use the boosted gear. Issei was getting desperate, and soon he will need something else. Damn it! If only I had more things in my repertoire, I wouldn't be like this. His thinking made the dragon ask, Indeed, partner. But what can you think of? According to you, almost every move you have came from a fight. So why not try it now? It might be useful even if it's dangerous. His ideas was crazy, experimenting while fighting a goddess. Only a dragon had the gall to think that and not believe it was insane. Issei was meditating his partner's words. Maybe you're right. It's crazy, but it could work, and it will help me grow further. He wanted to try it. Now that's my partner. I'll help you out. Two heads are better than one. Without wasting time, Dragon asked his partner, So any ideas? I need a long range. Until now I have only my spheres of darkness, my drill, Hellblaze, Purgatory Flamebird, and that's pretty much it. Flare Up is used to medium and close range, and the rest is close range. He numbered his attacks and he told Dreg. Have you thought of an attack coming out of your Hellgate? Dreg asked. That made Issei freeze. He hadn't thought about that. While looking at the flames were burning fiercely, he started to think even faster than before. Barely seconds have passed, and since he launched his attack, so thinking his speed was put into use until now. Maybe. He thought of something that was rather cool, but before anything else, the goddess acted. Whew. A pillar of golden light came from the flames, making them retreat. The goddess was at the center of the light, burns that were not even sunburns on her skin. Incredible. Dragon, certainly you are something. No one in a couple of millennia has managed this. You remind me about a certain king I fought long ago. Your schemes and power alongside your wisdom and pride are certainly like this. The goddess started to walk in his direction, golden light covering her from the flames and her surroundings. A pity we met like this. If it was in any other situation, then we could have been quite close. Truly a pity. Then the goddess stopped walking and looked into his eyes. Her eyes briefly lit up with a pink light, making Issei feel lightheaded and tired. His body became numb and he slowly fell to the ground. What did she... He placed his hand on the floor to stop his body from falling. Ishtar was thinking, wow, it only paralyzed your whole body? My eyes hold the authority to charm any living being. I can make them mine. Dragons are no exception. But you resisted. You were making me feel excited, dragon. I like when my eyes don't work. It's proof that the other being is worthy of everything I have. Fuck, she got me, Issei thought. As she saw the almost sexual smirk of the goddess, it seems he made her very interested in him. Partner, she tried to charm you, but proved to be useless. Be grateful that you resisted, otherwise you would have been her slave for all eternity. Those words made Issei sweat bullets. The goddess has something like that? He was highly frightened. You yourself said it. She's a goddess of beauty, love, and sex, so her eyes and charm are quite strong even among gods. But now that her strength diminished and she's not fighting seriously, you managed to resist it. You're lucky. The dragon then saw the goddess disappeared from his sight in a golden light. Light appeared in front of him, and the goddess held a golden sword on her hand. It was short, maybe 2 feet in length, but the power it had was no less than some famous swords that he had seen from across his life. Move, partner! As long as it doesn't hit anything vital, you can live! Drake told his partner. Erica, that was right behind him, decided to act. His fight with the goddess was seen by her, and she decided not to intervene. The fact that she was exhausted of fighting her body couldn't take the punches of the goddess without breaking, so she's been using her shadows as means to reinforce the inferiority of her body. That way she could fight and not suffer that much. But that cost a lot of energy, and the fatigue the moment she relaxed hit rather badly. So seeing that Issei was buying time for both Fuki and her made her take a breather. But the moment she saw those eyes shining, she went on maximum alert. For the seconds, her consciousness was robbed from her, and when she gained it back, the goddess was already in front of Issei. Shit! Issei, resist just for a minute, she mentally screamed. I need to use Lord of Vampire. She decided. She breathed in a pillar of red light surrounded her. Her skin slowly started to change into color of ash, and her shadows merged with her. She just needed more time, and she would be there to help him. Fuki was surrounded by tons of senjutsu hexagons, many in different colors, but mainly all dark in tone. 6 red and black talismans were floating in front of her. They had an eerie purple miasma coming off of them. This attack was prepping for her best, but she needed a lot of energy, almost all she had to successfully activate it. Please handle her for a bit more. I still haven't finished. I still need some time, she screamed for him to know. She knew things were going rather poorly, and both Issei and Erica were exhausted, but she needed them to be strong, just for a minute or two. Back with Issei, he saw the goddess appear in front of him, smiling in respectful light in her eyes. A pity, she mouthed, but it was heard by Issei. The short sword on her hand moved. Stab! The sound of flesh being pierced was heard. The short sword went through Issei, but thankfully she missed his heart by centimeters. He violently coughed up blood. The blood spread all over his face and the arm of a goddess. I regret how things ended up this way, dragon. Maybe we could have been quite close, but that will not be known, she told him while looking into his eyes, regret visible inside of them. You're right, Ishtar. Maybe we could have been great companions and friends, but we don't know that. He then extended his left arm and grabbed hers, stopping her movements. We certainly won't know, he smiled at her, the light in his eyes still there. Seeing him grab her arm, she increased her aura and started to pull it back. Slowly she was succeeding. Seeing that, she smirked. Dragon, you're noble, trying to tie me in a place so that your companions attack me, but you're too weak. Your body has barely any strength in it. You won't be capable of making me stay in place. Her eyes lit up with a pink light, and she tried pulling her right arm from his grasp. She was feeling herself from his binding. Half of the blade was already out of his body. In seconds past, it was pulled further and further back. Damn! He screamed inside of his head. He used whatever aura he had left and covered his left arm, increasing his physical strength. That bought him some time, but it was just useless. Ishtar increased her aura, and the blade started to glow in a golden light, burning his insides with the heat it generated. If you won't let go, then you'll suffer, dragon. I don't want your end to be like this, so give up, she taunted him. Never! I refuse to give up. I have given up In this life, I will no longer run away. I will no longer suffer like I once did. I will no longer be used. Those memories I have will no longer hold me down. I will prove to everyone how different I am. And if I need to die to show the truly worthy I am, then so be it. His eyes held a different light than before. Seeing him like this, the goddess was reminded of her past. When she was strong, she still had her loved ones by her side. She remembered all those good things, and seeing the dragons was still awestruck. I really think that maybe, just maybe, you could be. Her thoughts stopped as she watched something amazing. The darkness surrounding Issei pulsed and started to glow in a purple light. Then she felt how the magic reserves he was so proud of were slowly drained dry. However, his strength increased by ridiculous margin. With that newfound strength, he managed to stop Ishtar from taking her blade out. He then heard his partner's voice. Partner, your magic reserves are depleted, falling to rock bottom, but instead your physical strength shot through the roof. Quite the amazing aura you have, capable of changing to suit your needs. Issei understood and then asked, a new ability? Indeed, he got his answer. By sacrificing your magic, your physical power, a double-edged sword, but really powerful nonetheless. But now we need to focus. We can talk about that later. Your reserves are really low, so this won't last long. Make use of it, Drake told his partner. Then I'll use everything to keep her in place. Drake, be prepared. I'm using the gear. Drake was happy at his words. It was all or nothing. Then his left arm, red glow appeared. Then light momentarily dazed the goddess, but after it died down, she was stunned. The boosted gear? She screamed momentarily. She stopped putting her strength into her arm and making Issei gain more valuable seconds. He knew that Erika will soon come to help him. It seems that due to her fatigue, she took longer than he thought to use her trump card. Boost! He felt his strength increase. That caused a smirk. How? Only humans could have sacred gear. How could you have it? What kind of ridiculous existence are you? She yelled her question, but before he could answer, another voice was heard. That's not for you to know. Erika appeared in a flash of red light and stood in front of him. Her skin was the color of ash and her eyes were shining with red light. Then, with all of her power, she decided she clenched her fist. Seeing this, Issei grabbed the goddess with his other arm and prepared for the incoming impact. Boost! Thanks to the increase in power, Erika released her blow. It struck the goddess. Boom! Erika's punch landed right on her cheek, making her turn her head away. Blood was dropping from the edge of her mouth. Issei managed to resist the force of the blow and didn't let go of the goddess. Ha! You think something like that can seriously wound me? Keep on dreaming, Ishtar taunted, but Issei only smirked and said, do you think she's alone? That made the goddess look at him in shock. She remembered the other ability of the Welch dragon. Boost! The third boost was heard, and soon Issei grabbed the side of Erika, right at her abdomen. That made her blush, but since she was on his knees, there was not much that could be done. Transfer! The boosted gear announced. The red light on Erika's body increased in density, and you managed to crack the ground beneath her. She viciously smiled and said, you're fucked. She clenched her fist and focused the power on her knuckles. Her entire fist turned bright red due to the power that it contained. Then she released the punch and twisted it fist at the last second, making use of the entire physical strength in her body. Bang! The sound echoed all over the place, and the ground behind the goddess was decimated. Ishtar, feeling her other cheek being hit, momentarily lost her senses. That blow managed to twist her head in the other direction. As a bonus, she spat a mouthful of blood that painted the ground at the other side red. Issei felt the repelling force of the blow land on him, but he refused to let go. Partner, you have seconds left. Use them, Drake told his partner as he felt his strength emissions. Boost! Whatever you're doing, finish it now. I won't last for long, he screamed at both of his companions. Erika nodded her head and prepared herself to start a barrage of punches. She healed her cracked knuckles and prepared for another punch. Fuki hurried her preparations. She was just about to finish. Cocking her fist, Erika went for another blow. Bang! Like the last one, it made the goddess turn her head to the side and spat another mouthful of blood. Seeing her disoriented, she mercilessly continued her attacks. She just kept throwing punches, easily just kept killing the goddess in place, refusing to let her go, flying due to the force of each blow. Ishtar felt her head go numb due to the pain of each hit. Need to get out, those were her thoughts. She used whatever she had left and created another short sword on her hand. Then she made the use of her strength and swung it towards Erika that was delivering another punch. Swish! The air was cut apart. Trip! The blood hit the ground. The blade clearly cut her arm off, sending it flying. The goddess smirked when she saw the arm fall to the ground. Then she looked at the dragon and prepared her move. Turning her blade, she did a backwards grip and swung it, aiming to stab his skull. Issei saw her sword and aimed at his head and released his grip. The goddess lost her balance due to the momentary of her swing and tripped. Falling to the ground due to that unexpected move, she felt the blows of the vampire finally take a toll on her body. Her head ached, and she felt lightheaded. Those precious seconds in which she was down were properly used. Fuki then finished the preparations and started to chant. "The thought that burns my chest prostrate. This world is a living hell." She then concentrated her entire reserves on the 6 talismans in front of her, making them glow. The Senjutsu hexagon started to fuse in a single big, black, concentric circle right behind her. "The incarnation with an obsession that brings forth tragedy." Sensing the energy from this, both Erika and Issei retreated at full speed. The amount of energy, that's ridiculous. The energy being emanated from that spell made his body shiver. "Incredible. For her to control such amount of power and so perfectly. She's a true genius in the field of Japanese arts. Maybe not even in another 1,000 years will someone like her appear again." Drake rarely praised someone, and Issei knew it. Hearing his partner, the heavenly dragon, why Drake Goach praised someone aside from his host and even complimented her, that was extremely rare. Maybe in the entire dragon's existence, he was the only done so more than 5 times. So hearing the praise made Issei, for the first time in a long time, feel genuine shock. Fuki surrounded herself with Toki and spirited towards the goddess while chanting, but Ishtar soon felt the huge amount of energy charging at her and went slightly pale. "I can't let that hit me, not even touch me." The goddess tried to escape by increasing her speed, but was soon stopped by Issei. As if he concentrated and remembered his past idea. "Partner, you don't have any aura left," Drake said. "Oh, but I'm not fueling this with aura," he smirked at that. Drake soon understood those words. "You're trying to use your life force? Partner, don't do it. Who knows how many years of your lifespan you will lose," he screamed at him. "We'll find out later," he smirked and focused even more. A black portal appeared on top of Ishtar. It was pitch black with purple light inside of it. Static was heard from the portal, and it echoed across the destroyed palace. From the portal, small black lightning bolts started to surround it. They were sizzling continuously due to their huge energy. It seemed to threaten the goddess. Issei extended his right hand, black lightning on it, then he mouthed, "Begone with the thunderclap." At those words, the portal started to increase in size, soon reaching 10 meters in diameter. Roar! A roar came from within the portal, petrifying all of the present. Then Issei dropped his right hand towards the ground. Day of Wrath! A huge lightning bolt as thick as the pillars that supported the palace came crashing towards the goddess. It had shape of black dragon that jumped towards the neck of its prey. It seemed that it went to swallow the goddess whole, not leaving a piece of her behind. Ishtar was astounded. Never would have she had thought that dragon used his lifespan for an attack. Her vision was covered by the attack, and soon it struck her with ease. Boom! The power of hell was tremendous, completely vaporizing gold pillars in her surroundings. Various, terrible first-degree burns soon covered by her skin, blood flowing from them, but she knew that his attack was to stop her movements. Another distraction. She then forcefully turned her head and looked at the dragon, who was smiling while panting heavily. A silhouette of her formed behind him and took a humanoid shape. That person was someone Ishtar knew very well. After all, it was the man she loved the most, her husband. "How are you?" The silhouette seemed to smirk, then vanish into thin air. "How are you?" The silhouette seemed to vanish, then smirk into thin air, saying it twice. Her thoughts stopped as she heard another voice and a huge amount of energy being aimed at her. "Let the long-cherished wish pain this entire world." Fuki finally completed her spell. "Hell thought flame." The words rang across the desolate land. Purple, that's the only thing that they could see. A brilliant, noble purple light that covered the entire palace. No sound could be heard, nothing could be seen, just bright purple light, then intense heat. The heat was ridiculous, and even made Issei sweat rivers. He never felt this degree of heat, not even in his prided hellblaze that was capable of this. After what it felt like hours, the light diminished in brightness, and they all could see again. What they saw made their faces turn pale. The palace was in ruins. The location where the spell landed, gone. Nothing remained. Only a colorful sky of the dimensional gap could be seen. With the attack, more than half the palace was gone, with a snap of the fingers just like that. The throne and whatever was behind it turned into dust. Even the stairs that were somewhere around the place vanished as well. What was now left, the other half of the palace that was demolished. More than half of the pillars were turned into rubble and craters filled the ground. This is the result of a battle against a god. Issei couldn't believe what just happened. The entire realm created by a god was destroyed. If this happens on the human world, even worse, in a populated area, then he stopped his thoughts as he remembered something. The goddess! He turned around and searched for her, but found nothing. Does that mean that He then heard Fuki's exhausted voice. She was panting heavily, sweating all over her, and her felt reserves were lower than a low-class devil. No! Those words were like a bucket of cold water for both Erika and him. The spill didn't even touch her. I felt how it hit nothing. She just vanished, she told the rest of them. Their complexions worsened. Now they were truly scared. Indeed, a voice echoed all over the rooms. You're right, Fox. It didn't touch me. But for you to know and use a spell of that magnitude, that's certainly scary. If it landed, then I would have certainly been mortally wounded and I'd probably die. They looked around the palace, but nothing was seen. Oh, forgot about that. She seemed to be able to see their confusion. Break the void, Manma. A crack appeared from the void itself, and Ishtar appeared from it. She was still wounded. Blood fell from both sides of her mouth. The burns and bruises on her body were still there, and even the damage from Issei's Day of Wrath could be seen. However, there was something different from her. An object that was on her side, floating as if ignoring gravity. It was a huge bow? Its height surpassed by its own by at least a head, and the bow itself really looked weird. It looked like two royal pieces, that metal of golden engravings that seemed to pop out of the main parts of the bow. It was separated into two main pieces, two curved metal poles, one in front of the other. A huge hole was seen in the middle of both pieces, seemingly for arrows. A chain tied both pieces, mental ends of it, and it looked like it was made to resist anything. The bow was floating right at the side of Ishtar and was glowing in royal blue. What's that? Erika asked the goddess, but her only response was, he should know. After all, he knows everything about me. Her voice sounded sweet, but it seemed different from the past. Maybe she sounded expectant. Issei squinted his eyes, then stood up. That's Manana, the boat of heaven. I never thought it was a bow as well, he sighed. Minima is the boat of the gods that soars across the Mesopotamian world. It was gifted to her by the highest god, and it seems it's her weapon. This certainly isn't good, he told them. That made Erika and Fuki nod their heads. Not really understanding, Ishtar, on the other hand, was overjoyed. Correct again, darling. She tried teasing him. It seemed she was happy. You really know me well. To be expected about you. Now that I think about it, I have never heard your name, she asked, while tilting her head. Issei seemed to be taken by surprise by the lack of killing intent on her part, so he mindlessly answered, Issei Hyodo. Her eyes gleamed with pleasure. A weird goddess, he thought. Drake agreed with him. One moment she was fighting and aiming to kill them, next she seemed all smiles and happiness. It was weird. I see. You're the first that managed to make me take out Manma. Amazing. But now that it's out, I won't hold back. This time I won't let my guard down. I'll fight you with everything I have. Her words were serious but lacked the killing intent from before. So do your best to survive, she told him and waved her hands towards Memba. Voop! The bow at her side seemed to extend it as if ready to shoot. Then a pure white and blue energy arrow as thick as a tree trunk appeared in the middle of it, right inside the hole it had. That energy that arrow had managed to make them widen their eyes. That's... Issei screamed, but Drake finished his thoughts. No wonder she's called the strongest goddess. Just a casual arrow from her weapon has enough power to level a town. That should have at least the fourth of power of the attack from the fox, maybe more. Her words chilled him to the bone. She was holding back this much? He thought as he groped together with this team. I can't take that arrow, Erika told him. That makes two of us, Fuki agreed. 3. My reserves are low and I can't regenerate anymore. Erika should be the same and Fuki is running on fumes, he thought. Seems this is the end. She said she seemed to notice that they were exhausted. Ishtar, I'll never give up, and even if I die, I'll die fighting, trying to defeat you. Issei's words and confidence made the god widen her eyes. You're so similar to him, never giving up and always protecting those you care about. Her eyes seemed to be turned misty. Crack! The barrier around the palace seemed to crack, but the entire realm started to quake. Damn! The attacks we did made the barrier crack. Soon it will dissipate and we will fall into the dimensional gap, Ishtar thought, as she saw the place crack in like a mirror. Seems this place is breaking apart and it will soon vanish from existence, she told them, making the arrow from Emma disappear. Even I can't survive inside the dimensional gap for long, so I need to leave. The goddess activated her bow, and soon a crack appeared behind her. Take the treasure back with you, Issei. I'll come for it. And at that time, you better be ready. Her words sounded like a threat, but her thoughts were a bit different. You're so similar to him. Courageous, brave, and never willing to give up. But I need to confirm it. You certainly are different from anyone I have met, Issei. You're really special. The goddess seemed to be interested in him. Well, it seems that a goddess of love of war, her way accepting someone was through a fight. It seems his words were right. I should... With a new goal in her mind, the goddess gave a quick glance, a wink, and then left, disappearing from a palace. Seeing her leave, the three released a breath they didn't know they were holding. We were really lucky, they nodded at his words. Crack! The entire realm was falling apart, and shaking of the earth became more intense. We need to leave, Fuki yelled. How? The treasure doesn't work and we're exhausted, Erika replied in worry on her voice. Fox, use whatever senjutsu you have left on my partner. Try to make him regain enough energy to use Hellgate. That's the only choice. The gauntlet on his left arm told the three of them. Yes, Fuki nodded her head and reached Issei. Quake! The earth was trembled, started to fragment in pieces. Everything started to fall into the dimensional gap due to the hole of the barrier and kept them here. The three were anxious and they knew that using this was their only hope. And since the barrier that kept the place sealed was destroyed after their combat, they hoped that Issei was capable of taking them out of this place. Hurry, hurry, Fuki kept telling herself while Erika was on the other side of Issei with an anxious look in her eyes. Seeing her like that, Issei grabbed her hand and told her, Don't worry, we'll leave this place together, I swear. His voice sounded so soft and comforting, something really odd in him. Erika was amazed at his words, but soon she thought, if you keep saying and doing things like that, I'll turn out like Fuki, madly in love with you. She finally accepted her feelings for him. Those words made any doubt she had in her voice vanish. Then she smiled and nodded her head. I trust you. Her smile made him blush. Never had he ever seen her like that. Thanks. He blushed and stuttered while he answered, making Erika smile. You look cute like that. Her thoughts made her blush as well. Fuki saw all of this with dead eyes. Well, seems my plan will start even more before than I thought. As she thought, she smiled beautifully. Soon we'll become a couple, and then we'll do a lot of stuff. Her perverted thoughts made her drool. Soon the place was desolated and even managed to wake up three of them for daydreaming. We need to leave now! Issei then started to gather his aura and great difficulty formed a messy Hellgate. The gate seemed to be tattered. Obviously his current aura level wasn't suitable. Damn, not enough. He knew that the amount of energy wasn't sufficient. Seems I need to use something else. He decided to do what he did before, connecting his Hellgate with his heart. He used his life force once again to fuel the gate properly. The gate stabilized itself and soon looked normal. However, he didn't know how long he could maintain it. Quick, before something happens, he urged them to go first, but they shook their heads. They didn't want to go first, not without him by their side. Then they grabbed him by his arms and surrounded their necks with them, helping him move appropriately. Thankful, Issei focused on the gate, and soon after before place was destroyed, they crossed the gate. Scene change. The Golden City. The three appeared from a portal right at the bottom of the pyramid. The three kneeled on the ground, and for once they felt relaxed and happy they made it out alive. The goddess was certainly something else. They couldn't fight her when she was serious. They only fought her adequately thanks to her teamwork and planning. Their teamwork and planning. The goddess was certainly something else, of course. Oh, there you are. Beham was nearly near the location. Seeing something weird happen, he came to check it out. He thought it was the other three that came with them. Oh, there you are. Beham was actually near the location. Seeing something weird happen, he came to check it out again. Seeing it was indeed them, he walked closer, but never would he have expected seeing them in such bad shape. It seemed as if they went through war. The black-haired woman looked sickly pale and her body was trembling. The white-haired woman was covered in dry blood and was panting heavily. The man looked barely conscious. He was heavily wounded and was being held by the two women. The three looked really bad. Seeing them like that, Beham couldn't stop his scream, scared of what they just went through. What happened to you? Beham, while frozen in place, his face looked pale thanks to seeing the terrible states they were in. What's happening here? Jesper came from a building behind his father, but soon stopped as he saw the three of them. His eyes went wide-eyed at the sight in front of him. His brain barely registered the scene. The three of them looked as if they just survived a battle to the death. You don't want to know. Those were Issei's words. He didn't look at them. The woman at his sides nodded their heads and tried to catch their breaths. Issei then told them, "We need to leave. Being here is dangerous with her on the look." This place was a territory, so they needed to get out, and fast, yes. "I know. Give me a minute until I can use the Magamatama," Fuki told, while finally calming her breath. "Where are we going?" Erika asked as she stood properly, finally feeling better than before. "Anywhere better if it's this place that has a faction, but that way she won't be capable of getting near us easily. Aim for a deserted spot not far away from civilization. We need to get a place to rest and heal," Issei explained while feeling dizzy, his sight blurred. "Damn, using my life force made my body go weak." Issei knew that he was barely hanging on to his consciousness. "I agree. We should leave now." Erika agreed with Issei. She was anxious. She could tell he was about to lose consciousness, and that made her worry. Their conversation fell into the ears of two humans, but they didn't seem to care. Their only wish was to get out of here and fast. "Break the boundaries between worlds, Yagase Tani no Magatama. Transfer!" Having just enough energy to use the treasure, Fuki started the chant. Soon the portal appeared right behind them and increased in size, just enough for the three to pass. Without making a noise, the three of them vanished from the ancient golden city, holding a pier in a different location so they could rest. "What just happened?" Beham, that watched this, was confused. He really did understand what just happened. "I don't know." Jesper also was the same. Both looked at each other with confused look in their eyes. They just witnessed three supernatural creatures come out of a void and talk about something that didn't make any sense, and then after they just left. They stood there, not moving for quite some time, staring at the position they were currently at, but nothing happened. They never talked and really understood what happened at that moment, nor were they talking about it even in the future did they understood this. But one thing that was certain, whatever it was something that they'll never talk about. And that is the end of Chapter 9, The Ruins of the World. Chapter 10, Bonds, Unions, in the Unknown. Right now, deep inside the Hyodo mansion, two people were fighting against each other. Boom, boom. The sound of metal colliding could be heard everywhere. At this moment, Kiba Yuta was having a dilemma. He couldn't understand how the woman in front of him could be so strong so fast. As he began thinking, a magic circle the size of a person appeared above his body. It was bright blue in color and held many different runes on its outer layer. From it, a chilling energy could be felt. And soon enough, the circle emitted a small blue light. Damn it! Feeling frustrated, his sword under his lip. Clutching the sword in his hand, he tried to cut the circle in half, but before it was done charging, however, he never expected what came next. The woman in front of him disintegrated everything in her eyes and flew towards him breakneck speed. Frustrated yet again, he slammed his left leg on the ground while moving both of his arms circle above his sword. From his leg, a series of sharp, disproportionate swords literally came out of the ground, rushing in a straight line with speed no inferior to the woman. The swords varied in design, from normal bastard swords to ones that centered edge, and others that were just the edge of the sword itself. They all just moved in a straight line, trying to buy some time for their master. The moment they hit the target, they shattered into pieces, quickly turning into brilliant particles of golden light. However, something good happened. The moment the sword was in his hand, landed on the magical circle above his head, it was completely cut in half. "I'm lucky. There won't be a next time not in front of her," he thought while turning his head around. He moved his sword horizontally in front of him, covering his chest with the flat end of it. The palm of his other hand rested on the sword point. He heard the voice of a woman who was breaking his swords. Do not believe that was all. Her chilling voice made him wince. That woman was an amazing beauty, with a head full of silver hair and a pair of sapphire eyes. Those eyes held no pity nor fear. They were filled with calm anger that fueled her body to work at twice her max. She wore a pair of gauntlets engraved silver in color. She had armored skirt that covered everything below her waist up to her knees, and below that she had a pair of black stockings that hugged her beautiful legs. On top she wore a breastplate covering her curves but in no way reducing the beauty she had. In between the gaps of her armor some black clothing, the same material as her stockings, covered her body. She had a weird helmet only covering the sides of her head and forehead, a feather that shone with a mystic light at the right hand side of her head. She was Raswaisa, who was sparring Kiba. As Kiba saw the woman, he felt a chill creep up his spine, and he acted on instinct as he saw a multitude of similar magic circles block his surroundings. They were in different colors and runes, but the energy was heart-wrenching. Sword birth! Black Blade Blacksmith. Using both of his sacred gears at the same time, he surrounded himself in a wall of holy demonic swords, clearly using them as shields. The magic circles then shot their magic. The energy could be felt through the wall of swords. It was clear. Lethal blow, aimed to cripple. Boom! It soon landed on the wall of swords, breaking them as if they were paper. Rosvisa could be seen standing at the distance. Her eyes never left her opponent for a second. Was that enough? She murmured as she saw the cloud of smoke forming at the distance. However, a silhouette came flying towards her from the cloud of dust. Not enough power, she muttered as she created 2 white magic circles in both of her hands. She ran her hands through them, and those circles covered her gauntlets. As they reached the last part of her gauntlet, shattered like broken glass, and the shards fell into its metal self, changing the dull silver color in pure white. Imagining to Tord, she said, while raising her guard. Kiba reached her extremely fast speed, clearly using his trait as knight. Then he swung his sword in a diagonal way, aiming to end the duel as fast as he could. His balance breaker was already active, and a holy demonic sword was full on his hands. Rosvisa, on the other hand, lifted her arm towards her side, covering the left side of her face. Clang! The metal ring echoed all across the battlefield. The sword was stopped from moving closer thanks to her gauntlet. I did, however, chip off a fair chunk of her gauntlet. The ground beneath them was dented, and thanks to the strength of that blow, Rosvisa stood tall. You've improved your close quarters. Just how much have you improved? Kiba told her, as he put more strength into his sword, wanting to force her to her knees. Rosvisa used her right arm to support her left and spread both of her legs, stabilizing her trembling body. As much as I need to be at his side and not letting anything that happened to him again, she answered with a brilliant glow in her eyes. Kiba widened his eyes. You really have a special something to find women that are willing to go this far for you, Issei. That Rosvisa smirked. Right in front of Kiba, a weird Norse circle appeared. That was like 3 concentric circles that were no bigger than a head. The color was pale blue, and freezing aura made his sword gain a layer of frost. She created a magic circle without any signs of doing it. She used her only instinct, no physical movement whatsoever. He was shocked, speechless. Such a perfect control over her magic reserves, and the magic circle was ridiculous. Trying to get away, Kiba decided to back and avoid such a hit, but he was a bit late. Arctic wind. From a magic circle, feeling gale from it, it aimed extremely close distance right towards his stomach. Such a powerful spell was no joke. Damn it! He tried to twist his body around, but he was struck by the Nordic spell. Boom! He was sent flying away. He was shot across the entire battlefield. At the same moment, a huge pillar of ice was formed in the distance, reaching tens of meters in height. Rosvisa felt a sense of relief, seeing that she knew the spell landed perfectly. However, she felt dizzy. Her breath was rough, maybe because they had been fighting for quite some time. Damn it, my stamina again. How could I be so weak? Issei wouldn't be sweating now, and I am yet so exhausted. How pathetic, she thought to herself. She knew that Kiba had a lot more stamina. He wasn't even breathing, roughly only sweating. Yet, she was almost about to faint from exhaustion. I need to train my stamina even more. My control and power have improved even more before thanks to those trainings. She thought, upping her training regimen. Crash. The pillar in the distance was destroyed as quickly as it came. The cause, of course, Kiba. You almost had me, Rosvisa-sensei, but it was still not enough to bring me down. He cleaned the blood that fell from the corner of his mouth and fixed the grip on his new sword. Rosvisa recognized that sword. After all, it was from her pantheon. Danslif, she muttered as she saw the sword in his hands. Indeed, the moment the spell landed, I used Danslif's ability to control ice in order to make up migrate the damage done to me. Thankfully, I was fast enough. Kiba smiled as he began walking towards his opponent once again. Rosvisa stared at the sword, probably thinking about something. Danslif was a beautiful light sword, and had an icy blue edge and a pair of intertwined branches on its guard. It was a long and thin sword, probably not thicker than the cover of a book, but the icy aura it was held was extremely powerful and quite frightening. As Kiba was walking, suddenly vanished in a burst of speed, making the Valkyrie widen her eyes and react just on instinct. Kiba appeared on her left side and stabbed her with the sword point. Rosvisa created as many magic circles as possible from her left hand, trying to block Might in the swing. Crack! They broke, and one after another, but they fulfilled their purpose. In her right hand, another 3-layered concentric circles appeared. This one green in color, and expelling an aura that was twice as strong as her last spell. Throwing her arm forward, she chanted, Mistral! The 2 visible gales appeared from the circles, soon twisting themselves into one another and creating a drill of wind that was big as a person in diameter. The power in it held made the ground underneath just disappear. Kiba this time was prepared. He created a magic circle that pulled something from it. Another sword appeared in its left hand. The one, however, different from the other one, is right. It was a sword completely silver in color, and with a handle it was too big to wield even with both hands. The sides of the swords curved outwards as they reached the guard itself, soon covering the two long crosses that were acting as guard. Balmug, he mentioned the name of the sword, and had a huge tornado surrounded him. As soon as the spell landed, it completely turned into a soft calm winds under the power of his demonic sword. Rosweissa was not unsettled by this. She was even smirking at the sight. As winds dispersed, as a tired Kiba could be seen. Damn, using all of these swords still costs a lot of demonic power and stamina. Rosweissa then changed her position, placing her left foot and other behind. She gathered her magic, enchanted again. Draconic power. Bending her whole body as if it was covered by red aura, Rosweissa released a kick with her right leg aimed at Kiba's chest. He widened his eyes and tried to block with both swords in his hand. Forming an X shape, he put them in front of his body and used them as a shield. Rosweissa's smirk increased in size. She just murmured another spell, expending almost all of her magical reserves. Ride lightning. Increasing her body speed, reflexes, and flexibility, she bent her right leg at the impossible angle that passed his guard. Her perfect leg struck the middle of his chest. Bang! The red aura just sent the body of youth flying even faster than before. Ugh! Coughing blood mid-fight, Kiba felt his ribs crack at some point. She set me up, was his thoughts, as he was sent flying, crashing against the wall. As she saw this, Rosweissa held a triumphant smirk on her face, although her leg was wobbly than the last attack and her face was pale. Knew that this battle was hers. Crash! Crashing against the wall of the end of the field, cracks similar to a spider webs cover the entire surface of the wall. Kiba, at that moment, was seeing stars. She got me, were his thoughts as he tried to stand up, but something cold against his neck made him stop. A sword made of pure magic was held against his neck. It was the shape of a crescent moon, and the color of the same as silver. At the end of the sword, a woman with a pale face could be seen. Her face held no emotion, but her eyes betrayed that expression. Yield, she demanded, making the blonde knight sigh in hopelessness. I yield, he said as he felt the sword leave his neck. You've improved far too much, Rosweissa-sensei. This month has been quite something for you. Standing up while holding his chest, he complimented the woman. Thanks, but it's not enough. It's not enough to be by his side. I need to be stronger, she said as she bit her lips. Kiba just sighed at the sight. He knew why she was doing this, and he didn't know how to reply. Just keep the pace and you will become even stronger than no time. He smiled at her, trying to comfort her. She nodded and her head left. Walking away from the training field, she began thinking. Issei, oh Issei, when will I see you again? When can we finally be together? I can't wait to be by your side, and this time, I will stay with you until the very end. A smile naturally found its way into her face, making her already breathtaking appearance becomes 10 times better. That was the smile of a young woman deeply in love. That was the smile of the woman that wanted to see her as a man as soon as possible. I just need to wait a bit more, just a bit more. I know I will see you soon, Issei. She looked at the ceiling of the training field, staring as if it was in trance. Scene break, main living room, Hyodo Mansion. Back upstairs, the entire Grammary group and their boyfriends were preparing themselves for something that needed to be done before anything else. Sitting on a long, cream-colored couch, a woman with red hair began talking. Well, everyone, it's finally time to go to the underworld. Her voice held some kind of authority, making the men present put their attention on her. At her side, a beautiful woman, young in age, with deep black hair, smiled at them. The tournament will start in a little bit. More than a month and a half, and we need to get the pieces, Rias told them while crossing one leg over the top. Then why going to the underworld? A man, short blonde hair and blue eyes, asked the woman with some confusion on his face. Reggie, because the pieces can only be found there, Akane replied. So we're going to the underworld? A small young man asked with clear emotion in his voice. He even stood up from the couch he was sitting on, surprising his brothers at his size. He then walked closer to Rias and Akano practically running at them. Yes, Hamaji-chan, we need to go there as soon as possible. We can... Akano answered while giggling. The boy turned around and looked at all of the ones inside the room. He briefly paused and looked at clearly expensive high-class room. A huge place that could fit more than a dozen people, with brown carpet, with some weird engravings he couldn't understand, as well as mini ancestors that were either on top of tables or on the walls of themselves. Many couches could be seen, almost all of them full of beautiful women. The other spots were occupied by his friends and brothers. A fancy chandelier with extremely extravagant design hung from the ceiling, and huge windows could be seen on the wall at its left side. Little brother, please calm down. With a gentle smile, one of the boys said. He had black hair, tied into a tail that reached his upper back. His eyes held some gentleness and teasing smile that made the young boy blush in shame. He was Ryato Takashi, elder brother of the little Hajima and wielder of a sacred gear. Huh, don't be like that, Ryato. Seeing him like that always makes me smile, the other boy at the side told Ryoto. He also with the black hair with a similar face to his. Obviously they were brothers. His name was Soji Takashi, the eldest brother just by luck. Ryato turned his head and gave a small glare to his brothers. Soji, on the other hand, smiled in a challenging way, he obviously picking a fight with his brother. Oh, what's with the look? Do you wish to fight? If the shoe fits, the response managed to get a twitching eye from Soji. Ha! Then let's fight, bastard! He stood up in his place and yelled at him. What a coincidence. My hands have been itching for a good fight. Ryoto stood up. They stood in front of each other, no more than a few fingers in distance. However, they could finally fight. A pair of voices stopped their quarrel. Ryoto, Soji, do not fight here. Two women stood up in their positions and yelled at the same time. There were two young females with brown and blue hair, respectively. They both had anger written all over their faces. But he started it. We don't care, they answered back. Soji stopped fighting right now, or next time you and I will spar and I won't hold back at all. Zenovia made him an angry glare that managed to scare the man. Ryoto, you're supposed to be the mature one here. How could you continue a fight after you didn't even start? Irina told the man, who lowered his head in shame. Wait, so Soji started the fight? Zenovia turned her head around and asked Irina with a small glare. Irina wasn't even bothered by the glare. Of course, do you think Ryoto would start it? Her answer held some sharpness. Oh, it's going to be like that, huh? Zenovia turned her whole body and leaned forward, highlighting some of her assets. Huh? Then how did you think it was going to be, muscle brain? Irina told. Who did you call muscle brain, self-proclaimed angel? Sparks could be seen coming off their eyes. Zenovia, please calm down. Please don't destroy anything, Soji said to his girlfriend. Irina, please, we don't need another fight between you two, Ryoto told his girlfriend as well. Shut up, both of you. They turned their heads around and said at the same time managed to take the two brothers' retreat in fear. Sorry, they replied and hung their heads in defeat. The other side of the room, basically near the door, a man and woman watched this with pity in their eyes. You know what, guys? I just want to add in here, fuck these people, honestly, okay? I don't like them having a good time. The man had a mixture of brown and blonde hair, giving the atmosphere of a foreigner. His blue eyes held only a trace of pity as he held the two men on the other side. However, his face no expression whatsoever. The woman was completely different. She had a head full of golden hair and gentle blue eyes that showed naivety and worry. She kept looking at her two best friends with unshed tears in her eyes, if unsure what to do. She kept mumbling uncoordinately with both hands both on top of her mouth. She then turned around and looked at her boyfriend. Ken-san, please do something. If things keep going like this, then they will start a fight again, she managed to ask her boyfriend. He, on the other hand, only looked at the fight and sweated. The aura, they both admitted, was huge. If he goes there, he won't come back. Ozia, I can't, he replied, certainty of his words. The woman puffed her cheeks and looked at him, but the man didn't respond to that. He only lifted an eyebrow up. Near Ozia, a young woman could be seen. Do not worry, Ozia-senpai, I'll tell them, her voice emotionless. She was short in height, with a head full of white hair, and we know it's fucking Konako, stop describing her. She stood up for her comfy seat, stopping her sweat, and talked to the two women just keep fighting. Zenovia and Irina-senpai, don't fight, we have things to do. That was her only comment. Those two women turned and looked at her and said, but she started it, clear anger in their voices. Doesn't matter, she replied back. A sigh was heard inside the room. Rias had a small headache thanks to their little fight. Thanks, Konako, she said to her rook. Zenovia, Irina, we need to go, so stop fighting over something stupid. Rias told them as she held a hand against her forehead, extremely tired due to this. The woman decided to stop fighting and only said that this wasn't the end of it. Then they sat down on the couch with their arms and crossed their heads turned. Seeing them like that, Rias sighed once again. Akano, that was standing next to, giggled discreetly. Anyway, we need to go to the underworld right now. We need a tournament of pieces so that team could be finally formed. Authority filled her voice once again. These words managed to exterior everyone present. Wishing to begin this trip as soon as possible, even Irina and Zenobia stopped thinking about their recent fight. Their expressions changed to smiles, stars present in their eyes. They all started to think about the tournament itself, wishing for it to begin. That was killing them. Of course, the reason to participate on it were different. For the males and boyfriends, they just wished to see how amazing this new world they just were recently introduced to could be. I hope they get their asses kicked. They read some stories, some incredibly stories that seemed fake, that thanks to the library in his house, myths and legends about the world, if 10% of what they read turned out to be true, then everything in the world couldn't be explained by just words alone. Even sometimes when they were alone with their girlfriends, they would ask about how things they had done, making them feel awe and respect to all of them, their boyfriends, such amazing women. However, something caused them to feel envy and a bit of hatred. Issei Hyodo, that name always managed to make them scowl and glare at an empty space. He was someone that did all of that with them, and he was even the protagonist of almost all of the events they told him. They couldn't believe it. They refused to believe it. How could a guy like him, a perverted dumb brat, turn out to be someone so ridiculous? Fighting against the strongest youths in the underworld, achieving victory, fighting against terrorists on separate occasions, fighting against the evil god Loki and defeating him as well, completely destroying an entire faction of the Chaos Brigade, crippling the other faction of the Chaos Brigade by defeating the user of the strongest line Janus and descendant of a hero, and so much more. They still could remember. When they asked Kiba about the Hirakaku actually was, the shock they received when he told the truth. The shock they felt was second only to the first time they discovered who Issei Hyodo was. How could he be so impressing? Having a rival nemesis that's just like a bad joke of the heavens? Reggie began to think while looking at his own hands. He bit his lip in frustration. Why couldn't he be that guy? Soji quickly thought of his worst enemy, Issei Hyodo, when the mention of his games was made. That bastard, it's impossible for him to be like that. It's a joke! His hands turned into a fist due to his anger. I won't believe it. I never will. He was in denial. Hyodo looked at his brother. Thanks to seeing his glare, he had his eyes. He understood what he was thinking about. Issei Hyodo, the current Sekiru. War hero, savior of the three biblical factions, the most abdominal Sekiru in history, Dragon Slayer. He just kept repeating the many titles he was received, at least the ones he knew. Ken started at the ceiling, so he's abnormal. That even his rival is as well. He felt frustrated. Folly Lucifer, a direct descendant of the current Lucifer himself, the original father of lies and the first to fall. His thoughts keep going into between the current Sekiru and the Hirakaku, envy clearly present in them. Hajime was just feeling a sour taste in his mouth, seeing his friends and brothers' faces. He understood them well. Every time they talk about the incredible things the supernatural world had to offer, their minds just went towards that figure, that silhouette that seemed to be look at them as if mocking them, as if saying they will never be at his level, which they never will. Is he such a being, someone that everyone, even the creatures of other factions, care for and respect? Hajime was thinking. The girls, on the other hand, just kept thinking about finding Issei, that was their goal, and the fuel kept them running during these days. Reese and Akano looked at each other, unspoken determination inside their eyes. Zenobia clutched her fist. The light in her eyes was less bright than before. Azia, Ravel, and Irina shared some thoughts. Issei-san, I pray to the Lord that you're fine. Azia joined her hands. Issei-sama, I wonder where and what you're doing right now. Ravel stared at the ceiling. Senpai. Konoko just kept looking up at the sky, worried about Issei. However, everyone quickly dispelled their thoughts, feeling like that won't solve anything. We should get going. Rias was the first to speak. Melancholy in her voice. She removed tense environment that was in this room and now stood up. A serious and determined expression was on her face. But she could continue the next phase of the plan. Everyone felt the familiar presence near the door. A woman could be seen walking across the hallway, coming closer to the room. Her form of walking was elegant. Her beauty was second to none. Rosvisa, after her spar, removed her armor. Instead, a black and gray bodysuit with additional purple pieces was donned on her. Her hair was loose, falling down her back in a molten silver and her blue eyes held a bit of tiredness. As she came inside the room, everyone stared at her in a sense entranced by her beauty. The men had blushes on their cheeks and a misty look in their eyes. They averted their eyes from her diabolical figure, afraid of what their girlfriends would do if they saw him like that. But all of them had different thoughts on their heads. Wow, she's definitely beautiful, Lijun was the purist. She's a bombshell, a complete bombshell. How would you not notice this? Soji screamed inside his head. I can't believe how stunning she is. I envy Hyodo for capturing her heart. He sure is a lucky man, Reggie thought. He turned his hand into a fist, felt angry at the difference between them. Such a beautiful woman was here, waiting for him. She had a brilliant gleam in her eyes every time she talked about the one she loved. He was envious as a man and secretly felt more inferior to him. You are? Ha! I just don't know what to say. How could a woman be so beautiful? A pity she was already someone in her heart. If not, then, Ryoto thought as he kept his line of sight away from Irina. Ken, and no thoughts, he just blatantly stared at her, a light shining in his eyes. Rosvisa, did you finish your spar with Kiba? Rias asked. Her rook. Rosvisa just turned her head and looked at her with an emotionally eyes and replied back as she crossed the main door of them. Yes, Rias. I managed to improve a bit more in one. Her words surprised everyone, but especially the men inside the room. I see. Amazing, Rosvisa. You've improved a lot. Rias was happy and wasn't scared of expressing it. Rosvisa nodded her head and continued walking across the room towards the stairs at the end of it. We're going to get the pieces for the tournament. Will you come? She stopped walking and turned her head. Sorry, Ria-san, but I have things to do. An apology. But I need to improve some of my spells. She lifted the corner of her mouth, giving a small smile to keep appearances. I see, she sighed. Then how about Kiba? She asked once again. He is healing his wounds, so I don't think he will be coming up for more than hour or two. These words, in a sense, shocked them. Kiba was their teacher, and they more or less knew what he was capable of. Suffering a defeat was something they couldn't imagine. But, seeing her face, they knew she wasn't boasting. Rias thought about it, but then gave up. I need to get these pieces as soon as I can. Can't waste more time. She looked at the Valkyrie and remembered something that they talked about their boyfriends. I can't believe her obvious feelings for Issei would reach the point in which we needed to tell them that Rosvisa is in love with them. The worst part, how proud she was when we told her what we said to them, Rias lamented as we began recalling that memory. It's not time for that. We need to focus. She hid her cheeks and kept her thoughts straight. Gasper is in the hospital visiting Valerie and will be back until later in the afternoon, she thought. Then we will go like this, she told everyone present, making the men nod their heads as the woman to smile. I see. Then I'm going. Rosvisa bid farewell, walked across the room, soon leaving and walking upstairs. Unknown to her and the girls, the men kept watching her until she left, not missing the sweet movement of her hips and her elegant bearing that managed to make them sigh once again. Issei Hyodo, you're a lucky man. They couldn't help but think like that, envy overflowing their thoughts. Oh, okay, everyone. Okay, everyone, we shall leave, she yelled, and began moving. Afterwards, she created a blood-red magic circle at the center of the room, so it could be seen at the outer layers of it, and inside the circle, a purple light was present. It was big enough to hold all the people inside the room, maybe a bit more. The Gremlin signal could clearly be seen at the center of it. However, it was different from her usual magic circle. It was more profound and definitely more complicated than a usual circle Adder Parage used. Rias walked towards the magic circle at the center of it. The rest soon followed without wasting a single second. In a brief flash of light, they all disappeared from the human world. And that is where we're going to stop for now. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Tuning in. As you can see, I'm not super sick anymore, but I still have the fatigue from it, and that's why I keep messing up my words here and there. So just bear with me. I'm getting back into the reading once again, just chilling once again. But keep in mind that I do start school, or I go back to school in 6 days, and then I will have a whole another entire series. I think I'll have about 4 parts of a whole other series pre-recorded. So if anybody joins my channel memberships, just know that you will be added. It's just that I have those pre-recorded, and that's how that's going to go. So don't get offended. As for the next series, that's special. But obviously the movie of What If Issei Had Ultra Instinct will most likely be out before I leave, which is the 16th of August. And the 15th of August, I will be packing. I will be packing the whole entire day. Trust me, it's a lot of packing. Just FYI, I got to bring my PC, my computer, my laptop, all my crazy shit that I have, the TV, all the stuff for, to go record there, basically. But, yeah. I can't understand why I keep thinking about Dragon Ball all the time, but I have to do What If on it if I'm going to think about it 24/7 because, well, I mean, hey, it won't hurt to get a new audience anyway. because then it could really be interesting in the polls when I ask like about certain animes and things. So yeah. So once again, thank you to all my balance breakers. If you're currently still here, hit the like button, please, and thank you. 1,000 likes would be absolutely amazing. Obviously, thank you to all my balance breakers. Once again, my limit breakers as well. You guys are truly the MVPs of my channel. Thank you so much, man. I just can't thank you enough. This Sunday, I'm actually going to celebrate 30,000 subscribers because my parents were, I told them I hit 30,000 subscribers, and they were obviously excited about it. And then my brother was too. And then I'm about to hit 10,000 subscribers over on my second channel, IluLugal. So overall, I'll actually have like 40K, which is just crazy to think about, having 30K on one channel, 10K on the other. You know, on Fallen DxD, I plan to make that channel just as big. So thank you so much for the support, man. And without further ado, Spartanic Guards DxD out. And go subscribe to my 2 other channels, IluLugal, Fallen DxD in the description. Bye.